4-5 out here at the bend, double header this weekend. Saturday, today's layout, we're running the wall, and tomorrow we're going over the hill. So obviously got Smokey out here, replaced the coilover, did a couple of other bits and pieces, and she's pretty good to go. Practice went reasonably well. I'm just easing my way into it with the wall. Did actually manage to tag the wall at one point, and it was actually nicely cushioned considering it's got giant metal bars behind it. So anyway, on to our first battle. Don't know who I'm against, but it should be a good time. Hello, Mr. Ellis.
So the first battle of the weekend, up against Kenny and his Barrett powered 32, coming through the speed gate on the chase side. I tried to stick to third because I didn't want to miss shift second to third. There's not a lot of space from the exit of the speed gate until you clutch kick into the corner, so it's valuable real estate and time. I ended up coming into here, and Kenny, I knew he'd be a little bit shallow, but he's even more shallow than I probably expected. Took a bit of time to work my way back up to his rear bumper. Going into this right-hander, I did a bit of a dive, but I probably need to dive a bit more. And also, now I'm caught too far on the inside, which makes this next transition a bit awkward. But overall, not a bad first run for first chase of the weekend. So my second battle was up against Tyson. He's got small wheels on his S14. He says he goes pretty slow, but that car actually moves quite a bit. It caught me out twice during this battle, just here, where I wasn't sure how fast he was going to go. I hesitated for a second. He got on the throttle and basically drove away from me. And then coming into the next corner, I dive, not so inside like I did with Kenny, but again, I hesitate for a second and he gets a bit of a gap. So his car might be on small wheels, but the bloody thing is actually quite quick. It was a bit better run from me than on Kenny, so overall I was pretty happy with it. Well, top 16 time, Troy and I were right on the bubble of making the top 8, so we needed ripper runs. He was nice and close through the transition onto the wall here. I was pretty happy with my run right around the outside, nice solid line. Into the transition, Troy gives me a bit of a bump. Doesn't upset the car, but it does push me a little bit deeper, and probably doesn't work in his favour because there's a bit of a gap. Then into the final left-hander, and yeah, we did a pretty good job together there of putting some solid points on the board. Well, switching it around for the top 16 battle, probably what I should have done is taken some grip out of the car. On my lead lap, it was pretty much perfect, the amount of grip that I had for the amount of horsepower. But in the chase, if the lead car wasn't right up on that wall, I had to go and shallow off the angle, like you can see here. And just struggled to really get the car to fire. Going into the right-hander, gave him a little boop on the door, but I ended up hanging on to that transition too late, and it sacrificed some proximity going into left-hander. Overall, though, pretty good run, probably my best chase of the day, so couldn't complain too much.
So, decent qualifying, ended up getting 7th, so not as good as last round, but still into the top 8. Only thing is, I'm up against Matt Harvey from Tassie now, and he's been killing it all day, as he always does, in that red missile of his. So, well, missile because it's fast, not because it's not pretty, because it is very pretty. But yeah, so we'll see how we go with this. He's been on the wall all day, and yeah, see what we can do against Matt Harvey.
So going into the top 8, there was a couple of things I was well aware of. Firstly, that I was 4th in the championship going into this round, and that the person in 3rd didn't make the top 8. Secondly, that I had to step up massively if I wanted to beat Harvey straight up. And thirdly, that this wall can end your weekend straight out, particularly when you're the only BMW in the whole series at the moment. So decided to go as hard as I could and as well as I could within myself without trying to massively step up, look at the championship side of things, and drive as well as I could without risking binning it into the wall or ruining the car. So I think I did a pretty good job of that. Right down onto his door here, he made sure that he was right up on the wall. I had to give it a couple of big clutch kicks throughout that left-hander. I did dive onto his door here, but I did it with a bit more of a straight line, which didn't look that amazing. I was dealing with a lot of smoke in the cabin from his car, which I haven't had to deal with too much of before, and it did make me a little bit hesitant, but overall that was a pretty great run, and yeah, I was pretty happy with it. So now for my lead run. This transition onto the wall here, that was actually more snappy than I expected. It affected my line, so I wasn't as wide out towards the wall as I wanted to be. Wasn't terrible, but it wasn't ideal either. This transition was actually quite slow, so the opposite, and I would have liked a lot more snap. I could hear Matt very loud at my door at this point. Finally, left-hander, bit of a thumbs up to the photographers, partly because I'm very distractible, but also mostly because I already knew the result. I was pretty happy overall with the battle though. I'll happily take 7th and a straight car leading into Sunday with a whole other day of competing ahead.
So a little bit of a recap of yesterday. Ended up going pretty good. I got into the top 8 in 7th, went up against Matt Harvey, and yeah, it was closer than I thought it would be, but he definitely got the win. He ended up going all the way through to the final, where he got knocked out by incredible battle with Luke Viersma. So can't be too unhappy about that. But the car overall was driving good yesterday. I was just slowly working my way up to it, up to the wall, and come out of it with a relatively straight car. So the top 8 and a relatively straight car is pretty much all of my goals ticked for that layout. That layout's not really my type. There's guys out there that are willing to throw their car right up against the wall, and if they smash it, they smash it, but I'm not really one of those drivers. So come out of that all looking pretty good. Took some family friends for a run. I did actually tap the wall again with them in the car and then jumped the ripple strip accidentally, so sure, that was an exciting ride. Now on to today. It's the morning for Sunday. We're going to be doing over the hill layout. Going to do some quick adjustments to the rear ride height because I suspect the car's going to have to be a bit more floaty as it goes down the hill, because we did a couple of runs on that layout last night at the very end of the day, and yeah, you had to be either on the handbrake or clutch kicking for the car to stay sideways. I'd like it to float just a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do this morning, then on to practice.
So, first battle of day 2. This is a pretty crazy layout, this one. So, the speed gate, you come out of there, I come out in 3rd. It is a blind crest. You cannot see the track below. And then at the last second, you flick the car left and nail the throttle, and that's the only thing that keeps you on the track, and that's a part of the judging criteria. So the later you can do that transition to the left is going to be preferable for the judges. The rest of this layout is it's not that difficult. It's all pretty tight. This is a pretty good run, particularly for the first run of the day. I had Troy right there behind me, a little bit of a dirt drop there, but overall this is a good way to start the day. But yeah, this in-car, well, as usual, video doesn't really do the heights going down the hill justice, but it is pretty intense. Onto the chase. So this again, I was trying to go through here in 3rd gear, but I did get gapped a little bit. Clutch kick, but it'll only hold a little bit of angle and then dive. Troy hit the dirt there and didn't leave the door very open for me. We slowly worked our way back up to his door. I stuck in this pocket a little too long and it caught me up, so that was a bit of a mistake there. Wasn't too far away from him here. Troy went a bit far on the outside for the right-hander. Judges were looking for mid-track. And the rest of this was pretty good. I think I booped his door here, put his hand out the window to say hi, and yeah, another killer run to start off the day. So the run with Troy was pretty bloody good, and now I'm up against Scotty for Battle 2. This is when the cracks start to show. I was well aware that Hemmings had car problems. He was probably my main competitor for 3rd in the championship at this point. I spent a long time focusing that live stream camera on your face. It's very, very awkward when they do that. But yeah, so I was well aware of those issues. I also spent too long on the line in my own head. So at this point I was questioning what I was doing and kind of tensing up, knowing how important this battle coming up would be. So ended up going through the speed gate as per usual, but because I was in a slightly different headspace, I ended up initiating slightly later. The car floated over that crest and caused me to do this, which is a wild rally ride where Scott was politely just waiting on the handbrake for me to rejoin, so props to him. The rest of this run, well, I pretty much knew it was going to be a throwaway run at this point. We do get a score that we can drop from these qualifying battles, and I knew that this was going to be it, but that means that you leave nothing left on the table. You've got no second chances left, and I needed to get my head back into the right space for the rest of the battles for the day. So here's that initiation from another angle that Dad shot. You can see the wheels are pointed straight, the car's four-wheel sliding. I think here I actually threw the angle too little and too late. It meant that I was already over the crest and everything was unweighted, and meant that the car acted quite a bit differently. You live and you learn. On to the other half of the battle with Scotty. So now Scotty's in the lead, I'm in the chase. I jumped him a bit more than I jumped Troy to get a bit closer. It's a bit of a weird start to this run. Scotty actually got on the handbrake down the hill, and I got pretty close to rear-ending him. Wasn't what I expected. Normally you're supposed to be either flat out or you're supposed to be coasting in that section, no slowing down. So I think he lost some points and I gained some points in that area just for that reason, because it's a bit of a unexpected thing to be doing. The rest of the run gave him a little bit of a boop on his door. Overall, I was pretty happy with this run in total, and I got some pretty good points for it, which I knew I'd need to get into the top 8. So I'm going to jump ahead a bit to the top 8. I actually managed to qualify 3rd overall, which is kind of surprising considering I had a couple of issues. But I was up against Tim Rasmussen. This was his first time in the top 8, so I was really stoked for him. He did an amazing job. I did have a bit of a weird entry into this corner. The car initiated and flicked really hard to the left here and left me a bit shallow. But Tim, I'm not really sure. He ended up straightening out and then coming back and following me through the rest of the course. Very unfortunate for him, because I think probably if he didn't have that one issue there's a good chance he was going to beat me. Unfortunately for him, this is elimination, so you make one mistake like that and your run's over. But awesome to see him up there. He's been coming out supporting all our events for a long time, so it's great to see him progressing to the top 8, and we'll hopefully see him a bit further in the competition in the future. So now we're up to the top 4. Again, I was up against Matt Harvey, who was killing it all day. This was a bit of an interesting layout for him to have to learn in one day, but he'd done a really great job of it. So came around, and I knew that he was going to escape me coming out of this speed gate, even though I jumped it, and he certainly did. I was a bit of a gap back there, but I dived right up the inside, locked up the front wheel onto his door, and I was pretty overall happy with this chase run. I followed him through this section. My car had a bit more grip than I expected, but still not as much as him. So there is a little bit of a wavering gap throughout pretty much all of this section. But that car is very hooked up and has a lot of power. So, it is what it is. I had a good time, though. I kind of knew the pressure was off at this point. I had a feeling I wasn't going to get any further, so I was just going to have fun with it. So that's pretty much what I did. So back to the live stream awkwardly zooming in on my face. I was pretty happy also with this lead run. You can see how much the pressure being off made a difference to me, because I drove so much better than most of the other runs through qualifying and through the top 8. Initiating harder over the top and then worked my way right out to the outside here around this long left-hander. And Matt was pretty much there the whole time. He wavered through the first part, but then he was on my door for the rest of the run. And I could hear that loud 2J just in my ear the whole time, even with the windows up. He followed me pretty close through the rest of the run. And once again, I pretty much knew the results of this one before the run had actually ended. But it was great to drive with such an amazing driver, and at this point, I was just so relieved to pretty much be done with all the competition, knowing that I had suspected I'd done everything I needed for the championship.
All right, so 3rd place today, winning $400 cash. I'm also standing in the right spot. This is really convenient. It's Tate Lindstrom. Tate, I know we spoke in the top 8, and you said you were kind of struggling with the initiation over the crest, and watching from up there, it looks sketchy for a lot of those runs earlier in the day, but it looks like you really... Why is Jamie's car rolling? Anyway, you really got it dialed in after the top 8 and the top 4. It was good watching you get a little bit more comfortable. I think just carrying a different amount of speed over the crest, you looked a lot more comfortable. Obviously got yourself onto the podium, which is great to see. Anybody you want to throw a shout out to?
Yeah, look, if you told me that I'd be up on the podium halfway through the day, I would have called you a liar. But yeah, as we know, drifting's half mental, and yeah, found my way at the end of the day with Matt, which is really nice. I'd like to thank everyone, obviously DSA crew for today, and TDP Mobile Services, and yeah, that was a killer day. Thanks to all.
Awesome. Make some noise for Tate Lindstrom. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. One Arm Bandit on YouTube. He does finish editing his videos sometimes.
So a bit of a wrap up in my creaky old shed out here. Gotta say, pretty happy with that weekend overall. I knew it was going to be a battle of attrition with 2 comps back to back. Keeping the car going and the car straight was going to be key, and I managed to do that. Also managed to get a whole year out of Smokey's engine, which we've been struggling to do for the last couple of years, and this year we've had no issues pretty much with the motor whatsoever. Blew out a couple of coilovers, but for a whole season, that's pretty good reliability. So I think we've got that mostly under control now. And yeah, my driving, I think I did pretty well. I certainly am still learning this car each round. I don't think I've really driven it other than AMF and the comp rounds. So yeah, it's been a learn as you go kind of experience. And I think I got the car fairly under control now, but there's still a couple of things that I could do to make it better. And in particular, getting my transitions a bit more snappy. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So I need to work on that. So yeah, championship-wise, I think I did pretty well. I think I did everything that I needed to. We'll find out in about a week's time because we've got the Christmas party where they tell us where we came for the year. But I think I did pretty much everything that I could have. Was a little disappointing that I got my own head for round 5, but honestly, that's not too bad. I worked my way through it and I made it happen into getting into the top 4. So, yeah, hell of a year. Gone to Summer Nats just after New Year's Day. So we're going to head out to Canberra, and then the weekend after New Year's, they've got Summer Nats out there. We're doing drift demos, taking people for rides in Smoky. So it should be a hell of a time. So this is probably going to be the last video for the year. Not that I did that many this year, but yeah. I'm a bit more casual with it these days. This video was actually a bit different because I wasn't really going to do a video. I started filming it, then got really distracted by the driving side of things. So kind of shot it a little bit different with voiceover to give you guys an idea of what I was thinking and what I was doing. And let me know if you like that different style, I guess. But anyway, having a happy new year, Merry Christmas, all the other bits and pieces that go with this time of year. And I'll see you in 2024.